You're studying for a book report. When you get to the end of the page, you look above and notice that none of the words are familiar. You have subconsciously been reading this book and you now know nothing. You're struggling to focus and you sit in this moment and you say, I just need to focus. I'm stupid. I can't do this. Oh, all the smart people know how to focus. I know nothing. Well, maybe there's a better way to look at that. We will discuss all of this today and more in the Happiness Playbook. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Playbook podcast. I am Michael Anderson. I am your new host, and we are going to be discussing here life through the paradigm of play theory. And the play theory principles are be present, let go and play, accept and build, and look outward. And these principles have been practiced here in our local community for over 20 years. I personally have been practicing them for 14 years, and I teach these principles every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happiness is a skill and not a circumstance. It's something that is practiced. We're going to be talking about that a lot today. We want to give you with this podcast the tools, the mindset that you need to go about your lifelong journey to becoming more happy. Before we jump into things, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Your subscription will massively help our community, especially at this point. And if you really like what you see here today, please tell a friend and have them subscribe and like and comment and do all those wonderful things. Now let's get into our team huddle. For those of you joining us again, our team huddle is a moment where we get together, we review what happened last week. We reviewed the challenges that we went through, and we invite you to comment. And we also read some of the comments as well. So I wanted to start out today's huddle by reading some of the comments from this last time. And just so you know, since the channel is very new, there's a good chance that you could be featured here in the comments. So here's what we got so far. These are from some people who had listened to it before. This is from Sleepy Mom 24. Says, I can't wait. I have missed this so much. Thank you so much, Sleepy Mom. And we've got the Pineapple King also commented and said, yes, so grateful this is back off the ground. Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here. This is going to be awesome. Once again, if you leave a comment, there's a good chance you'll get on here. At this point, later on, when we're all like big and tough and famous and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be tough. So it's going to be, hard. Last week, we'll do a little bit of a review here. What we were getting into a little bit, Larry and I were talking, getting our feet wet with the podcast, and we were talking about happiness. We talked last week about all the play theory principles. We talked about how happiness is a skill and not a circumstance. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about happiness and what you think happiness is and get a little bit of a better feel for where you are. We did talk about the comments here, but I really do appreciate if you do comment in this video, I will review those. I'll go through them and I'll see where you are. That way I can give the content a little bit better for you, for your enjoyment. So that's where we were last week, talking about happiness is a skill and not a circumstance. What do you think that means? That happiness is a skill and not a circumstance. What do you think happiness means in general? Take a moment and think about that. What do you really think when you say happiness? I have happiness in my life, or I am happy. What do you really think that means? Is it plural? Is it the plural emotion of happiness? Or of happy, the emotion of happy? Is it a landmark in life, like once you get enough money, once you have a family? Is it what you do every day? You have a job that you like. Is that happiness? Comment below what you think happiness is. I want to know what you think about happiness. I've heard lots of discussions on happiness. Recently, I've been seeing lots in the political sphere or at least people who politically comment. Maybe they'll have guests on and they're discussing what does it mean to be happy. There's comedians even that I've seen talk about what it means to be happy and how they love bringing happiness to people or laughter. And sometimes you just see an influencer just talking about happiness and what that means. Now, I've heard a couple comments on this. I've heard people say, anything from money doesn't bring you happiness to money does bring you happiness, or a certain level of money brings you happiness. Or you hear comments like, having time with my family is what really matters. That's what brings me happiness. Or my ritual, my routine in life makes me happy. But once again, what I'm getting at is those are all things that you do, right? They're things that are happening in life. They're circumstances of life. Now, I would say I feel the same way, though, about some of these comments. I feel like my family brings me happiness. Yeah, I feel that way. Money, sure. Don't have a lot of it. But, occasionally I can go on a date with my wife. That makes me happy. But I could also see in those circumstances not being happy. Have you ever been on a date and you were not happy? Like, dates aren't just happy on their own. That we all know that. When you're playing with your children, maybe there's happy moments. Maybe it's like, I just want to kill you, right? Like, there's moments that we have, right? And so it's not a circumstance. There's kind of a skill. There's something that's happening there. So think about that. I will say that one of my conclusions is like once you feel like you've got happiness, right? I mean, sometimes you're chasing happiness and you will just say, well, because I'm not happy, because I didn't get there quite yet, like I'll never be happy, right? And you go on this kind of downward spiral, right? You're thinking, I'm trying to be happy, but I'm not, so I will never be happy, right? Or I can't do it. Other people figured it out, but I can't figure it out. So it's kind of a tough question. But once again, going back a little bit, I found that in my life, I feel like I'm generally happy. And I believe that's because of these principles. I think that there's practice you can have in life, things that you can do in life that make those situations more happy. Okay? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's what we're going to be talking about on the podcast in general. I wanted to take a moment and stop on that. I feel like in the last episode, we were having a grand old time. I wanted to give that a little bit more thought. I wanted people to think about that a little bit more as they're going through these episodes. What does it really mean to be happy? So let's get into the bulk of today, as this episode is called, presence or focus, right? I've been thinking about this a lot, this topic. And we brought this up earlier at the beginning with, okay, you're reading a book. We've all been in that situation, right? Where you're reading through a book and you just realized 1, 2 pages, 3 pages go by and you don't know a thing. You look back at the words and you're like, this is so unfamiliar. I do not know. And then you're like beating yourself up. You're like, I need to be focused, right? How do other people do it, right? And we start beating ourselves up, right? When we don't get things right. I don't get this. I do get it because I do it myself. But we can get really in this dangerous space of beating ourselves up all the time, right? So anyway, we're getting down, we're looking at the page, we're like, I can't do this, I'm not focused, so what am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to go get caffeine. Maybe I'm going to slap myself in the face a couple times or throw water in my face, or maybe I'm just going to try to reread the page a couple times. You reread it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and you still didn't get any of it. You're not focused. What's going on, right? I have ADHD. I don't know what's going on. But maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Okay, this scenario. And I love this scenario because we all relate to it, right? We all have need to focus. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom. You need to focus on getting the chores done while the kids are asleep. Maybe you're a student studying for a test. And maybe you're just trying to get a personal project done. And you've got something else going on that evening, and you're just trying to get something done. So you got to get focused. And focus and motivation can work together to help us get things done, for sure. But I find that focus and motivation, they are not reliable. Sometimes there's things that I like to do, but I'm still not motivated to do it, right? So I discussed this problem with a class recently, and we were talking about the book problem, right? What do you do? Like, how do you stay focused? And I say, our principle is be present, right? We could have said it's be focused. Now, focus, I think, is a part of presence, but I think it's really not the whole picture. So what can we do instead? And there were some beautiful things that came out of this class. We had various of our youth. They were talking about like, well, what if I'm just more aware of the situation, right? I can notice that I'm not being focused, and I can accept that, right? And be okay with the fact, right? So that's being a little bit more present. Maybe you're in that mode of being focused and you're thinking, I am I notice that I am not focused, and how does that feel? Right? How does it feel to not be focused? Is there something else going on in my life that I'm not focused? And it's okay to like let your mind wander that way. The reason you're not focused is probably because your mind is trying to focus on other things. It's trying to do other things, right? So maybe instead of like, oh, I just need to get back into this, like take a break, right? Become more aware of the situation. Is it cold or hot in the room? Are you hungry? Are you tired? So be present. Be present. I like to think of that as being more aware of your surroundings and what's happening in your life at the moment, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. A little bit more like diving into being present and give you a little bit of a better definition of what being present is. We like to think of being present as being in the moment and attending to the moment. And when we talk about play theory, we talk about it in the sense of you have an opportunity to play. And there's no way to really engage in play unless you're present, right? If you're on your phone scrolling, or if you're, thinking about this horrible party that you have to go to later that you've not been wanting to because it's a costume party and you really don't like dressing up, okay? We're in that time of season. That's how I feel sometimes. I think everyone else, for the most part, likes going to those costume parties, at least that I've talked to. But you could be mulling over those things, right? But it's about bringing yourself to the present moment. Regret is in the past, and worry is in the future. But now you're able to handle those things a lot better, right? I want each of you to think about this as you're listening to this podcast right now. What are your senses? What are the things that you're feeling? What's happening around you? Are you in danger? I would assume that if you're taking time to listen to this podcast, then there's probably not a pressing, dangerous moment that you're in. Maybe you do have some kind of a dangerous situation. I don't know. But there's a good chance, I think, for most of those who are listening, that you're probably, not at gunpoint listening to this. I promise that's not me. I won't do that. You're probably attending to the moment. You're probably in the moment, and you probably have things that are happening around you. Maybe there are some things that are trying to distract you from the podcast, but attend to that moment. Be in that moment for a second and find joy in that moment. That's what being present, I think, can really help you to do. A couple tips and tricks that can really help you to be present is you can take a moment to breathe. In fact, this is something that I found from Andrew Huberman. I listen to his podcast occasionally. He's a neuroscientist, men's health. People hear me quote him quite a bit. He's really smart with these things, but I love this thing. He had this breathing exercise that I thought was really cool. So I'm going to give him the credit for it. I don't know if he got it from somebody else, but he talked about ways that you can calm your heart rate or raise your heart rate. And if I remember correctly, the way to calm your heart rate is to go like this. Kind of like a long, creepy breath like that. It's Halloween, so there we go. But you can take those fast breaths in through your nose, cleaning the air, and then letting that breath out kind of slow, right, actually lowers your heart rate. I kind of like thinking about it as like a baby who is like getting off a long cry, right? Have you ever heard a baby go, right? You have that kind of feeling, that you've had. I have my kids, and so I know when they get hurt, they're usually like, right? So they're making, and here I'm making a wonderful face. Yeah, I'm trying to get my crew to laugh back here. They're doing they're my laugh track. So that's kind of like what I like to think about it. But that's actually what they do, is they're actually calming themselves down. They're naturally doing that. It's kind of cool. And you can do the reverse to get your heart rate up, right? So you can take a deep breath in. Right? And that can get your adrenaline going. So that can really help you. I think both of those can help you to attend to the moment, whatever that is. And that's one way. There's also box breathing. You probably have heard that before, where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, not breathing in or out. That's the hold. And then breathing out for 4 counts and holding for 4 counts. And doing that in a cycle can really help you get in the moment. And it can help you to, and you can close your eyes and do it, lay down or stand, whatever you want to do. And that can really help you to get into the present. Okay, so how does this help you in what you're trying to do when you're really trying to be focused, right? Because that's what the whole thing is about. I think that as you practice these things, you'll find that you will be able to have more focus in life, generally speaking, if you're able to be more present. It can be a real challenge when you're just trying to force yourself through focus, right? And I don't know, I did make fun of ADHD a little bit. I will say that like it's very real, right? There's a lot of people who really struggle with that, but also when we're on our phones all day, that can really cause us to struggle with our attention, right? Because we're constantly stimulating our brain, and our brain's not really meant to do that, right? So like those breathing exercises help us bring us back to the moment. But I've found that in doing a simple breathing exercise like this, or just becoming aware of your surroundings for a second, you become a little bit more aware, generally speaking, and that will help you to understand what is being read on the page. That's my personal experience. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. That would be really awesome. I wanted to share a couple other things about being present, not just on the book example. I'm sure that there's other reasons to be focused, but I want you to turn your mind away from the idea of like, I need to be focused all the time, right? You're just not going to be. It just is not realistic. Whether you have ADHD, whether you scroll all the time, or whether you do your monk meditation exercises every morning, you're just not going to be focused all the time. It's just not possible. We have a cycle that we go through during our day that just doesn't make that possible at all, okay? So don't beat yourself up, right? You can always be present. You can always turn back to the moment, and that takes practice. That's why it's a happiness practice, okay? So let's talk about that for a little bit. There was, and this is kind of on the focus example, but also on the presence example. I got off the phone with my brother about a couple hours ago. Yesterday, he got in a bad accident. He's okay. He's fine. His car is not, and the other person's car is not. And the other people are okay too. You're welcome. But he was letting me know about this experience, and he was saying, yeah, I was actually stopped in traffic. The person behind me didn't realize that the traffic was slow. It's kind of a weird place in traffic, and so it's in Utah. It's this weird spot where the freeway kind of turns, and it's not always easy to see what's ahead of you. And these other kids were on their way to Montana, and they hit the back of his car. And they were going really fast. Their airbags went off and all that. And, once again, we can talk about this as like, you need to be focused on the road, right? Okay. But knowing we can't always be focused at all times, I think being aware of your surroundings, right? Taking a step back and saying like, I'm not trying to focus in on this little part of the canvas that's being painted right here. I'm focused on the big picture. right? I have people in my car, right? I'm aware of them. And as I'm driving down the road, going really fast, because I'm aware of them, because I'm aware of the other vehicles, I'm going to drive a little bit safer, right? So, that's kind of what I'm getting at there. So, being present, it's a really good skill to build. I encourage you all to practice it, to be in the moment. Find those moments when, especially when you're interacting with others, right? All the play theory principles, they're meant to be done with others. Being present can be done on your own, but practice it with others, right? Is your kid coming up and asking you to play while you're working on something really difficult? Does someone need your attention? Does someone need a compliment? These are moments to be present in. So this is what I want you to do for this week, and this is my challenge to you. I'm always going to give you a challenge of some kind, and we call this the play of the week. Okay? So you think about this as a sports team. I'm your coach. We're giving you a play of the week. In a place where focus is necessary, this is the challenge. So in a place where focus is necessary, take a moment and become aware of the whole situation by being present. And with that, please comment on your experience below. Benefit others. There's definitely a chance to get featured on next week's episode of the Happiness Playbook. I will say I featured every single comment I got from last week. And in closing here, remember that play theory is a practice for happier life, and that is what the Happiness Playbook is all about, helping you in your happiness practice. Please take a moment once again to subscribe, like, and we will see you in the next week's episode. Thank you very much.